Thanks, Brittany. I'm Jessica from Brown Paper Bunny, and today we're going to do a watercolor galaxy butterfly with Tombow dual brush pens. And I'm on the Tombow design team, so I get to use these beautiful pens every day, and I want to show you how to use them as well. So we'll get started with supplies, if you wouldn't mind spotlighting my desk. All right. So we're going to use the Galaxy dual brush pen set, which has all of these beautiful colors. You might also want a pencil. I'm using the Tombow mono drawing pencil in 4H. You're also going to need a paintbrush and some water, or a water brush. I'm using the Tombow small size and also the medium size. And these are great because you just untwist, fill it up with water, and then you don't need a separate jar of water. You just can take it with you. It's great for sketching on the go, that kind of thing. Excuse me. And then you're also going to need a permanent fine tip marker, and I'm using the Mono Twin Permanent, which has a bullet tip on this side, and then it has a fine pen tip on the other side. So it's great for your smaller details. You're also going to need some white gouache, or you could use acrylic paint as well. And you'll want some kind of palette for the gouache. So I often use just a serving platter, but also if you have a Tombow blending palette, you can use that too, and you can wash it off afterwards. So here's the butterfly that we're going to make. And just to give you an example, you can make yours in any size or flying, static, like however you like. So there's a couple more examples. And we're going to, afterwards, after we've done the painting part, we're going to draw some black sort of silhouetted lines on there. But if you wanted to leave it just with the color and draw the stars over the top, there's an example of what that could look like. And just to show you, they make really cute little cards, and or you could frame it and hang it up. It's just another example of how you might use your butterfly. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you're going to need some watercolor paper. Or mixed media paper works as well. And so this is what I'm using today, the Strathmore watercolor 300 series. Okay, so make sure you've got all of your supplies handy and get a blank piece of paper. I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of blending before we get started with the actual butterfly. So some notifications over here. So one of my favorites is this pink, purple, blue combo, or there's the green, blue, kind of purple or dark blue, and then there's purples and blues as well. So we'll do a couple of these so you can decide which one is your favorite and which one you want to use for your butterfly. There, so you can see it. So go ahead and get your dual brush pens. And the first one we're going to do is 725, which is this lighter pink. Just go ahead and scribble a little bit of that onto your paper. Then I'm going to use 676, which is this lovely purple, and put that ink just down right next to it. And next is 606, kind of a bluish purple. It's a nice transition color to the blue that we're going to use last, which is 555. And if I'm going too fast or too slow, just let Brittany know in the comments and she'll tell me to slow down or speed up. Now grab your paintbrush and water, or your medium water brush. Oh, sorry, I'm forgetting all my supplies today. It also helps if you have some paper towel or something absorbent with you to help clean your brush and mop up any spills or water you didn't mean to put down. So to get the water flowing in the water brush, you just give it a very gentle squeeze on the barrel and then wet the first color of ink. You can see it kind of blends into itself, and then gradually move across to wet the next colors. And as they dry, they'll start to blend together and you'll get this beautiful watercolor effect. And if you want to blend them a little bit more, don't go straight back from the darkest color to the lightest, because you'll get kind of a muddy color if you mix it too much. Just clean off your brush by gently squeezing it on the paper towel, and then go back from lightest to darkest and add more water if you really want to blend them a little bit more. Clean off your brush. Okay, now we have our first color mix, and next we'll try this green through to blue. So grab 296, your green, and do the same thing. Just add a little bit of ink to the paper. And then move to 443, which is this light blue. Next up is 555, the darker blue. And then last, we'll put a little bit of purple, which is the 606. And then same thing, just grab your water brush, give it a gentle squeeze to get the water flowing. Start at one end, just wetting the ink and blending it together. And clean off your brush. And we'll move on to the last color combination we'll test out. Okay, so this one we're starting with purple 676. This one. And then moving on to 606, kind of bluish purple. And 555. And then lastly, we're going to go into the lighter blue. So you've got that real kind of purples through to blue with the 443. Use your water brush. And you can experiment with using just a little bit of water or using quite a lot if you really want the colors to sort of flow together. Just play around with it and see what you like better. Clean your brush afterwards. So as they dry, they'll start to blend a little bit more. But you should already get a feel for which color set you would like to use for your butterfly, at least for your first one. I think I'm going to start with this top color combo, the pinks, purples, and blue. So just put that piece aside. And grab my piece. So I've already sketched out a butterfly shape in pencil, but I'm going to go over it with my mono twin pen so it's nice and dark and so you can see the lines that I'm drawing. This is permanent, so it means you can add water and wet mediums over the top and it's not going to bleed and smudge and go everywhere, which is great. So the first thing is to draw a butterfly outline. And I'll just grab this one to show you. If it's easiest, you can just draw one sort of straight on like this. The one that I'm drawing is kind of at an angle, so if you'd like to try and copy me as I draw this one, then you can as well. So I usually start with the body of the butterfly, And you can just draw this like a big oval or an elong sort of stretched oval shape. And then I add the antenna. Just little lines with smaller ovals at the top. And then I draw each wing coming out from the body. So the top one I'm going to sweep up and around and give it some little bumpy parts and back in. And then we'll do the same thing for this bottom half of the wing. And back in. How's everybody going? I think someone's asking for templates. I can certainly put some templates up on my website, brownpaperbunny.com. I didn't put them up before this class, but I'd be happy to put them up afterwards if that would be helpful. And that way you can print them out and trace them if you'd like to. All right, let's do this next wing out here. And then the bottom half. And there you have your butterfly shape. You can do it all in pencil if you like. I actually like to do it in the mono twin marker because then when I'm painting, it's sort of easier to see through the color where each of the wing sections is, and I can keep an eye on kind of what I'm doing. So next I'm going to draw these middle parts of the wing and show you on this example. So this is going to be the areas where the color is going to show through. And so if we draw them on first, we'll know where to put the colors that we want and just kind of keep it inside those shapes. So you can really put any shapes you like in your butterfly wings. You don't have to copy what I'm doing. But I like to do a larger shape at the top, just sort of following the shape of the wing. And then I fill in this extra space with kind of smaller shapes like this. Again, just roughly following the shape of the wing. So they're sort of like little puzzle pieces that kind of fit together. And a little sort of triangle piece like that. And then I do the same for this bottom part. Here I've got kind of a smooshed heart shape. That's the technical term, smooshed heart shape. And then another triangle piece. And let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. Just keep filling in those shapes within the wings. I'll do one more long piece down here. Okay, half of your butterfly's done. And then we're going to roughly copy these shapes, but in them sort of mirror image over onto this wing here. So turn it so you can see. So similar shapes on this side. And one big long one at the top. Everybody doing okay? No questions so far?
Doesn't look like we have many questions. We do have one person asking to slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, I think we're good.
Great. Now I'm just drawing 3 sort of triangular shapes down the bottom here, sort of stretched triangles. And last one. Okay, I'll leave that there for a second so if you are copying what I'm doing, you can see what that looks like. Okay, I'm going to choose just the colors that I want to use. So using this top color combo, I want 725, 676, 606, and 555. So I've got pink, 2 purples, and then the darker blue. Put the other ones to the side. Of course, you can choose any color combos that you like together, and you can really have fun with it. If you want to have a yellow and orange butterfly, that would look great. I mean, you can really do whatever, whatever you'd like. Okay, so if everybody's finished their butterfly, we're going to start the blending. And I'm going to start with the pink, 725. And I'm just going to do a few lines of color in the middle of my largest shape on the top wing. And maybe a little bit here, a little bit at the bottom here. And then I might do a little bit in these sort of heart shapes in the bottom wings as well. And you can see on this one that I did earlier, you just want to make sure that there's color in all of these spaces, or sort of windows, I guess, that are peeking through. But you don't need to color in the areas that you're going to fill in with black afterwards. You can, doesn't matter if you go over, but you don't need to. Next, I'm going to use 676 right up against all of the pink areas, because I want the pink and this purple to blend together. Just adding a little bit of ink. It doesn't have to be neat, as you can see I'm pretty messy with it. Just adding the purple in. And over on this side. Just a little bit in these shapes. Okay. Now we'll move on to the next purple, 606. Let me know if I need to slow down a little bit. Just adding it again up against the last purple that we just did. Okay, now the last color, I'm using 555, the darkest blue, and there'll be the least amount of this one because you can see I've already filled most of the shapes with color. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this just at the ends, just to fill in any gaps. A little bit on this side. Okay, first step of our coloring is done. I'll just give everybody a minute to catch up and finish coloring. I'd love to know what color combos are people using? Pinks and purples, blues and greens, something else? Maybe let us know in the chat. Also, once we've finished the whole class, if you want to share on social media, tag Michael's and Tombow and Brown Paper Bunny, or Tombow USA and Michael's stores, and Brown Paper Bunny, because we'd love to see what you create. I always get such a kick out of seeing everybody's creations. Always see some pinks and purples. Nice. All right, next step, we're going to blend the ink just like we did in our tests earlier. So grab your medium water brush or a pink brush and water. And you want to start with your lightest color and work out to the darkest color, because otherwise, if you mix from the dark to light, pretty much everything is just going to be dominated by the dark color. So I'm going to start over on this wing. I'm just wetting the lightest pink and blending it into the purple and then into the blue at the end. Just making my way through each of the little segments. And you might want to give your brush a clean after you've wet the darkest areas so you don't sort of muddy up the lightest colors. Just keep working your way through, blending each little segment. Cleaning off your brush. And just remember, give it a gentle squeeze if you need to get more water flowing. And the nice thing about the Tombow dual brush pens being water soluble is if this dries and you really don't like how it's blended, you can actually go back in and re-wet it, or you could apply more color over the top and then wet it again, which is really fun. So if it doesn't quite look the way you like the first try, you can try it again. Sort of blend it over again. So just keep working your way through each piece. And it doesn't matter if you go over the lines that you've drawn, but make sure that there's color completely within each of those little segments. Okay, how's everybody doing? Going okay? Start on this wing. Blending the color together. I know it looks like quite a mess right now, but I promise it'll look a lot neater once you're all done. And once we put the black over the top. Now, depending where you live, this is going to dry quicker or slower for some of you. I'm in Seattle and watercolor tends to dry pretty slowly here. So I actually have a little travel hair dryer that I keep on my desk. And I usually give things like this a little blast just to help the drying process along. So if you're somewhere where it's a little bit more humid or not as dry, I used to live in Colorado and watercolor dried almost instantly there because it's just the air is so dry. You can feel free to zap it with a hair dryer or a heat tool or something else if you need to speed up that drying process. Okay. Now I've done all of my segments, but there's a few little spots just here that are lighter than I would like. So I'm actually going to drop in a little bit of extra ink. And the way I do that is by scribbling onto my blending palette, or like I showed you before, I sometimes use a serving platter, an old serving platter, and you can do the same thing using that if you don't have the blending palette. But I scribbled the ink on there, and then I'm using the water brush to pick up that color, and I'm just going to drop it in on top here for a little bit of extra color. Here we go. That looks better. Because I like my butterfly to be really colorful and vibrant. And clean off your brush. And then you can also use your paper towel just to wipe the ink up off your blending palette. All right, how's everybody going? Have we finished adding color to our butterflies? I'll give you a closer look at what it looks like. Pretty messy right now, but that's okay. All right. I am going to move straight onto a butterfly. Will I move on? I'd like to keep going on this one, but it's going to take a little while to dry here, and I don't want to blast you all with a hairdryer. So I might use one that I've already colored, a different shade, but just to show you how we fill in all of these segments. It's basically just coloring them all in. Oops, wrong hand. So I'll give you guys a minute while you're just waiting for yours to dry, and I'll just show you this next step. Let's see. Just drawing those shapes on. And then I'm just using this bullet tip. Oops, can you see? The bullet tip of the Mono Twin to just simply color in around these areas. So let's see, I'll put this one on the screen so you can see which parts are supposed to be black. So you want to color in the body and just leave these kind of window panes with the color coming through. And if you have a black dual brush pen, you can use that as well. Or you could use, there's a N25 that comes in a Galaxy palette. I really like how opaque the Mono Twin is. And also because it's waterproof, if I decide at the very end, oh, I'd really like to add some more color and make it a little bit more vibrant, I know that this ink isn't going to blend if I put more color over the top. Hopefully that makes sense. So just work your way around, coloring around all of these segments. This part probably takes the longest, so maybe I'll just do half a wing and show you guys and not make you watch me color in for the whole class. It almost feels like a shame to cover up some of this color, but I think it makes it pop in these segments so much more because you have the black. It just really highlights those areas of color and makes them feel even brighter somehow. And I believe this class will have a replay as well. So if you missed any steps or if you did get a little bit behind on something, you'll be able to come back and watch it, I think, on Michael's YouTube account. So just coloring in your sections, or around your sections, I should say. Something really satisfying about coloring over the top too. The paint, or the ink rather, and the paper has a little bit of texture to it, and I like the way this pen feels and sounds as you color over the top. Okay, so you're starting to see how it's going to look. How's everybody going? Are you ahead of me? Have you already finished coloring in the black areas? Are you still working on it?
Jessica, could you show your original butterfly as well? I think some people are confused about the steps, so for the original one, basically you're just showing how you would color in those white areas, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Mine's starting to dry now, so I can move on to this original one if that is more useful. At least this side is dry, so I'll start on this side. So yes, I'm just coloring the white areas around each of these little wing segments. So basically turning these white areas black so that the color really pops. And we're also covering up any of those messy bits where we went outside of the lines. So that's nice. Does that help? Does that make it clearer what we're doing?
I think
So
that's helpful for people.
okay. Yeah, sorry, my other butterfly didn't have as much white space there. So yeah, the steps are: draw your butterfly, add the color with the dual brush pens, and then wet the ink to blend it. And then once the ink is dry, the color is dry, then fill in the white areas in black. And that's what we're up to now. And I can show you that it is a little bit quicker to do with the dual brush pen. If you know you're not going to add any extra ink over the top, you can use the brush tip of your darkest color. It's a little bit faster because it's a bigger tip, so it can fill in a bigger area quickly. Okay. So there's my filled in wing. And like I said, I don't want to make you watch me just color in the whole class. So we might move on to the next step, but you would go around and do the same thing on each of these segments. Just fill in the white areas with black or your darkest color. All right. Let's move on to doing the stars. This is the fun part here. So I'm using white gouache, but you can use white acrylic as well. And I might just use my blending palette here. Going to squeeze a little bit of paint, just a tiny bit. So you can see, you really only need like a very small amount, probably even less than that. And then you're going to want a very small paintbrush, or I'm using the smallest size water brush. I don't know if you can see the tip. It's very fine. And I'm going to pick up some of this gouache on the very tip only need a little bit. And then in the colored sections of the wings, I'm going to start doing lots of little dots. And you could also do some sort of starburst shapes. And I'll do one of those just to show you. Just doing some little lines coming out from the center. So if you can see, there's a little starburst shape. And then just around that, I'm going to do little dots for little stars. And you can do as many or as few stars as you like in your colored area. It's up to you. You can always just add a few and then decide to go back in and add more later if you would like to. And I keep the stars just to the colored areas instead of to the black outlines, because then it's sort of like we've got a little galaxy just peeking through the window. You can add a few larger dots, some smaller ones. You can see starting to get that galaxy effect coming through. And the reason why I like to use gouache or acrylic is it's a lot more opaque than using, say, a gel pen or something else. So I find it stands out more. And if you want it to be really, really bright white, once this first layer dries, you could go over it again and it'll just pop against that color. It'll look really nice. Okay, I'm gonna do some more dots. And I find the small water brush is the perfect size for these little tiny dots. And if you accidentally smush one of the stars, just turn it into a larger star like I just did. So there's the next little window. I'll do these last two. I might do another starburst shape down here on the darkest area. Bigger one. And some more dots. How's everybody going? Any questions so far? Okay.
One question that we have is if there's any way to lighten your colors once you've already blended them.
You can actually a little bit, and I can show you that too. I'll leave this here for anyone that's still working, especially if the color is still a little bit damp or if it's still totally wet. That's the easiest way, the easiest time to lighten it, but you might still be able to lighten it once it's dry. So if these ones are already dry, and if I add a little bit more water, squeeze my brush, add a little bit more water over the top, I can re-wet that ink. And then I should be able to kind of soak some of it up with the paper towel. So if you just press down, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but it's quite a bit lighter. I soaked up some of that ink. So that's one way you can do it. You can see some of it's on the paper towel. You just re-wet that area and do it that way. But if it's already wet and you maybe added too much water and the colors blended together too much, I'll show you what you can do. If you've got a really dark color and then a light color. And And if you added too much water and blended and see how you've lost all of the pink and it's just gotten too dark, I've used the same technique. Go in and you can soak up some of that with a paper towel. And then once it's dry, if you wanted to add more pink in, you could do that. Or you could use the technique that I showed you before. Let's clean my brush, where you use your blending palette to drop some of that color back in. Make sure this is clean. Just picking up some of that pink and adding it back in over the top to get a little bit more of the pink color. Does that help?
That's great.
And if you have a really big puddle of water, you accidentally add way too much, just use the corner of your paper towel and just sort of dip it into the puddle and it'll soak all of that up really quickly. How's everybody going with their stars? Are they looking galactic? Hopefully good.
Someone was asking if you could use a Q-tip to pick up the water. Have you ever tried that, Jessica?
I've never actually tried using a Q-tip to pick up the water. I don't see why not. If it's absorbent enough, it should pick some of it up. I like a paper towel too, because once you use the corner of it to suck up the water, you can just rip that corner off and then just keep using it to suck up more if you need to, which is great. If you were doing a really huge butterfly, you could use a Q-tip with your gouache to do big stars. Like if you were doing a huge butterfly, that'd be really cool.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So here's a finished one if you want to have a look. I've done a few starbursts around the place and then just filled in all the other spaces with dots. I always make a mess when I try to do this, but you could experiment. It's a lot of fun. If you have an old toothbrush, you can take it and kind of dip the head of it in the gouache and make sure the gouache is wet enough, and then use your thumb to just spray the gouache over the top. It would get all over the black areas too, but maybe you could fill that in last if you wanted to try it. It's fun if you want a lot of stars quickly and kind of just a spray across your painting, which is really fun. But that's pretty much all there is to it. Is there any other questions or anything you'd like me to go back over? Any steps that you missed or anything?
We had a question about whether you water down the gouache, but I don't think you do, right? You don't squeeze the water brush when you're using it.
No, I didn't. I like that the water brush tip is wet because I've got water in the reservoir. So, but my gouache was already like fairly sort of wet. If it had been sitting there for a long time and dried out, then you would need to wet it again. But you don't really want to dilute it too much because you want it to be nice and opaque for your stars. So you don't really need to mix it with water if it's fresh out of the tube. You'd only need to mix it with water if it had been sitting on your palette for a while.
We also have one other question. One of the examples that you provided, that you showed earlier, you had your butterfly on a blue background. Did you do that by doing it directly on the blue paper, or did you cut it out?
Neither, actually. What I did was I took my paper and I taped it down to my table. So that's the white border using painter's tape. And then I used the lightest blue, which is 443. And I painted the entire area right up to the tape. And then I drew the butterfly on top. So I started with just a blue rectangle, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Here's the other example. So yeah, you can draw them like itty bitty little butterflies. You can do a whole bunch of them. You can draw them huge. It's all kinds of fun things you could do.
All right. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jessica, for your time today. And I hope everyone enjoyed creating these watercolor galaxy butterflies with us.
Thank you so much for joining, everybody. And like I mentioned before, we'd love to see them. So if you post a social, tag Michael's Tombow and Brown Paper Bunny so we can check them out. But thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Bye.